I'm JohnHinjle, the senior pastor of First Presbyterian Church here in downtown Murfreesboro, and this is your Saturday morning preview of your Sunday morning sermon. If I look a little disheveled, it's because I forgot I didn't do this on Friday. When I got to the church to go over my sermon, I went, oh my gosh, I told Charlotte I would do it. And so you get me in when Auburn went to the College World Series t-shirt, I had a hat on, I took it off. I've got my pickleball glasses. I wear these glasses when I exercise or walk. So some of you've seen them before. So let's get into it. I'm really kind of excited about this sermon, but for different reasons. I mean, there's some sermons that I think are inspiring, but why I think this sermon will be so impactful in your life is because it's hard teaching. It's not easy teaching. And one of the reasons it's hard teaching is because we're dealing with a very delicate subject. We're dealing with sex, and we'll talk about that in a second. Too often, I think, I've seen it from too many ministers where they kind of just tiptoe around difficult subjects. But the Bible is the Bible because it opens us up to God's will for our lives, and it does this by telling the stories of the faithful, right? I mean, that's what Ruth is. It's a story of the faithful. And so in that story, you have to deal with the whole story. You just can't kind of pick and choose what happens in the book of Ruth. You have to look at the whole story and the meaning of the story. And so we're in chapter 3. Of course, we're still dealing with our series of sermons looking at the understanding of relationships that we have with our family, relationships that we have with our friends, our neighbors, but also the relationships that we have with those within the church. And so we've covered in the first series that our relationships are built on hope. We covered in the second sermon that some of our relationships take work and effort, and sometimes you have to kind of put yourself out there to be in that relationship. But this sermon is going to focus on the understanding that sometimes our relationships lead to risk, that we have to take risk in such relationships. So let's kind of get into the text, and again, I'm so excited about it. I could preach the whole sermon right now, but I don't want to do that because this is just a preview. But we ended, if you remember, with Boaz saying to Ruth as she was gleaning the fields, hey, listen, instead of gleaning the fields, you can walk with my women. So let's talk about that. That I didn't mention this in the sermon Sunday, but what Boaz, remember, the Levitical law says that you should allow the poor and the oppressed to glean the fields, meaning that they can take the food that was discarded from the harvest, right? So there's you just can't, all the harvesters can't get everything, and so the poor and the oppressed would pick up what was left. But Boaz says something that's really interesting. We make Boaz into this great hero, and Boaz is just a man, right? He's just a man trying to survive himself. And so he reveals something in that text by saying, okay, you have the harvesters, right? You have the harvesters, and then behind the harvesters, you have these additional women who were basically gleaning the field before the poor could glean the field. Isn't that interesting? So the harvesters are picking the grain, and who should come next are the poor, right? They should glean the field. But no, he has another group, which are the women, and they're basically gleaning the fields before the people who need to glean the fields can glean it. And Boaz says, hey, listen, from now on, don't hang out with the poor. Hang out with the women who are basically gleaning the fields. So I said Sunday, and it's kind of misleading that now Ruth has the first fruits, but in reality, she has the first leftover fruits, right? She was getting the scraps of the scraps, and now she can just get the scraps. And so But nevertheless, Ruth knows this is a blessing. She goes home to Naomi. She tells Naomi everything that happened, and she says, hey, the field I was in was owned by a guy named Boaz. And this is when, for the first time, Naomi has a little hope, and she says, hey, Boaz is our guardian redeemer, meaning Boaz in our family is responsible for the whole family. So if one of us is in need, it's Boaz's job to take care of us. And Naomi's excited about this. But then we get into the end of chapter 2, and it said that the barley and the wheat harvest was over. Well, why is that significant? Well, it means there's no more food coming in. And immediately we go into chapter 3. And immediately Naomi has an idea. And she tells Ruth to gussy up, pretty yourself up, and at night, go to the threshing floor. The threshing floor was the place where the workers would separate the wheat from the chaff, that hard shell. And back in those days, the threshing floor was outside. Everybody could see. It was just a large flat stone that they used to help break the shell off from the fruit. And Naomi says, you need to go, and when Boaz has finished working, he's tired, he's had the evening meal, and he has a few glasses of wine. When he falls asleep, you are to lay next to him, uncover his feet. I'll put that in quotations. Uncover his feet. You can take that for whatever it is. And then then the most troubling line is from Naomi, and Boaz will tell you what to do next. Again, I say it's not by chance that after the harvest is over and the food is stopped, Naomi comes up with this master plan. Ruth's response to the plan is, I'll do whatever you ask of me, Naomi. So Sunday's sermon is going to talk about the difference between risky behavior and a risk. Now, just because they share the same root word, risk, I think risk behavior is radically different from taking a risk. And that's what we're going to talk about. Too often, we enter into risky behavior, when in reality, God calls us to live in a risk. And we think of risk as, some people think risk is a bad thing. Taking a risk isn't a bad thing. It's a matter of life. Risk behavior, which we'll go into, is a bad thing. So that's where I'm going to leave it. Because if not, there's no reason to come Sunday or watch on YouTube. So let me remind you again. The New Beginning Task Force, along with Jim Crumley, made the decision that we will come back to on-site worship. So we have on-site worship, but we're requiring everyone to wear a mask. There won't be any blue tape in there. Spread out, that's fine. That's good. No reservations are needed. We will ask you to mask up. We will ask you to clean your hands before you come in. And as I've said, no one's happy about this. No one's excited about this. No one says, oh, great, we're going back to mask. But the New Beginning Task Force believes, and I believe with them, that things are getting bad again. And so we, as a church, need to take steps not only to protect our members, but we have a responsibility to this community. So that's it. That's what I've got. I'm trying to think. I've got my notes on my watch. That's it. That's all I got. Listen, I hope to see you. It's been a little long. I look gorgeous today. Y'all take care.